Life had become a series of predictable patterns for me. After work, I found solace in my favorite bar. The familiar faces, the hum of conversations, and my routine of ordering one beer gave me a sense of stability. It was my way of unwinding and marking the end of the day. My routine acted as a barrier against past chaos. I learned the hard way that opening up often led to heartache, so I kept my bar interactions light and impersonal. The bowling alley next door was my final stop, where I could lose myself in the game and clear my mind. One evening, while savoring my beer at the pub, a dark-haired woman across the bar caught my eye. The bartender, Sam, placed another beer in front of me. "It's from the lady at the end of the bar," he said. "Thank her for me and return the money." "You can put it on my tab or pour it out," I replied. A few minutes later, she sat next to me. "You shouldn't be sitting here," I said, sipping my beer. "Not accepting the beer I bought wasn't very nice," she said. "Is there a reason you don't like me?" "I like you, but I don't know you. I have trust issues with women. My life is simple, and I prefer it that way. If you stay, another guy will show up. He'll probably be prettier, younger, and richer." "What if I just like you?" she asked. "That's not going to happen, so why bother?" I replied. "You don't know me, so how do you know we can't at least be friends?" she countered. "Let's see," I said, turning to look at her. "You're between 25 and 30, educated, with a good job. You have a nice body but obsess over minor flaws. You're either married and looking to cheat or recently divorced. You think you're a bit wild, but are actually wilder than you realize, needing someone to bring that out. Your ex or husband was much older, and I remind you of him or someone else. How many did I get right?" "Almost all," she admitted. "My husband died a little over a year ago. I stopped wearing my ring a week ago. There was no love left, but I stayed to care for him out of respect. After he passed, even though he held me back, I couldn't look for someone else so soon. But you reminded me of my first boyfriend, the one I left to marry my ex. Now I'm back at work in a business I think I'll like, but I'm unsure. What about you? You seem young to decide to be alone forever. Don't you have needs? I thought all men had wants. You don't seem like the tough idiot you're pretending to be. I see a sincere romantic trying to build a wall to avoid getting hurt again. So, what made you act like this?" I raised my beer for the bartender to see. "Play it again, Sam, and maybe get the lady another one." Sam brought us fresh drinks, and I started my story. "You might be right about romance, but that's not my point. I don't see myself as romantic, just naive. A year ago, I was happily married to the woman of my dreams. But that dream turned into a nightmare on national TV, making me look like a fool. I met Ellie 6 years ago at a party, and it was love at first sight. I know some don't believe in that, but I did. One minute, I didn't know her, and the next, nothing mattered but her. She had fiery red hair and green eyes, so expressive that I could always tell her mood. I loved her deeply. A year after we met, we married. I worked as an engineer for a company that made parts for major automakers, while Ellie worked part-time as a waitress before becoming a homemaker. We planned to enjoy life before having kids, unlike her sister and brother-in-law who had a messy marriage after an unplanned pregnancy. Ellie's family lived in a trailer park nearby, and they were glad we married because it meant they could use our pool and had more room. Ellie and her sister Sally were close, and if I couldn't find Ellie, Sally would know where she was. In the evenings, Sally, her husband Billy, Ellie, and I would hang out. Ellie and Sally loved daytime TV shows like Jerry Springer and Maury, which I didn't enjoy but didn't mind since Ellie liked them. She'd have dinner ready when I got home, and we'd explore the countryside together. I loved driving my 2008 Mustang GT CS, a California special with a cherry bomb exhaust, which was my pride and joy. None of this would have happened without Sally. She's attractive and has a genuine heart, looking like a slightly older, taller, and heavier version of Ellie, but with blonde hair. Sally had made advances on me a couple of times, which I always turned down, thinking she was testing me. Things started to go wrong when Sally and Billy's fights became more frequent and intense. Instead of seeking marriage counseling, Sally contacted Maury's show to have Billy tested for infidelity on national TV, suspecting him of cheating and possibly fathering a child with a young woman from the trailer park. I found it all like a circus, and though I suspected Billy was guilty, I kept it to myself. I wished them well and planned to record the show for us to watch later. That evening, Ellie dropped a bombshell. She wanted to go to Connecticut to film the show. She felt she needed to be there to support Sally in case Billy cheated or did something bad. For Ellie, it was a dream come true to see her favorite show being filmed. Since she wasn't involved in the case, the network wouldn't cover her flight or hotel. I assured her we could afford it, but then I found out she expected me to go too. She didn't want to leave me alone, fearing I'd be tempted to hit clubs and meet loose women. She believed too much free time led to Billy's trouble. I suggested Billy needed a job, but she just laughed. She reminded me that in our 5 years of marriage, we never missed having fun unless we were sick or injured. So, a few days later, we flew to Stamford, Connecticut. An assistant director from the show met us at the airport. Ellie and I went to the hotel while the staff had a production meeting. In the room, Ellie jumped on the bed, pretending not to look at me. I could feel her eyes on my back as I unpacked. "Isn't that what a woman is supposed to do?" I asked. "I'll show you what a woman is supposed to do," she smirked. Suddenly, Sally walked in without knocking. "What are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be at the studio?" Ellie asked. "They need Billy more than me. He has to take a lie detector test. They only needed to ask me a few questions and record a snippet about what I think he's doing. They needed more from him than me," she said. "Do you think Billy is really cheating on me?" Sally asked. Ellie didn't answer, just squeezed my hand tighter. We both knew the answer. Ellie's reaction made it clear she thought Billy was likely cheating. "Honey, I can't say if he's cheating, but we're sisters and we'll support each other. If he is and you leave him, I'll be there for you. You and the kids can stay with Ted and me. Ellie, you're lucky to have a man like Ted. I can't imagine him cheating. Can I tell you a secret?" Sally asked quietly. "I already know," Ellie replied. "You've tested him a couple of times. You love Billy too much to cheat. If he cheated, would you take him back?" "Maybe, but he'd have to change. He'd need to promise never to cheat again, and if he did, we'd break up. He needs to get a job. We've lived in this trailer too long with too many kids. It's not fair to them, but we've been together so long I don't know how to live without him. No one's perfect. Men make mistakes, but he has to change." Ellie squeezed my hand gently and purred softly. "You really love her, don't you?" she asked. I nodded and smiled. "You guys aren't like Billy and me. Sometimes I think we're only together because it's all we know. But you really love my sister." I had no idea. Sally went to her room. "I'm glad she's finally gone," Ellie whispered, pulling a blanket over herself. "And by the way, I love the hell out of you too, till death do us part." The next morning, we all had breakfast together before the shoot. I noticed two things right away. Sally had her hair and makeup done and looked amazing, while Billy looked like he hadn't slept, clearly worried about losing her. Marilyn, the alleged other woman, wasn't with us since she was only 19 and likely didn't want to come. We got into the limo, splitting up. Billy, Sally, and Marilyn went one way, and Ellie and I went the other. At the studio, a large warehouse-like building, the TV show sets were in the center, surrounded by screening rooms, conference rooms, dressing rooms, and other areas. Around the set were cameras and crew setting up equipment, while technicians controlled camera angles and sound from a recording booth. Producers, directors, cameramen, and security were bustling about. Watching the show at home, segments seemed to take only a few minutes. I assumed we'd be done in an hour or two, but it took 3 hours before they started filming Sally's segment, which was the middle of 3 segments that day. The first segment featured a teenage mother claiming her neighbor's husband, a Protestant minister, got her pregnant. He denied it, claiming as a man of God, he would never commit infidelity. He and his wife harshly criticized the girl, calling her a liar. However, he failed the lie detector test, and DNA confirmed he was the father. His wife attacked him and the girl on stage, needing to be restrained. Maury's announcement was the highlight. The minister, already nervous from failing the lie detector test, looked desperate, silently praying for a miracle with the DNA results. His wife, agitated and glaring at both her husband and the girl, refused to hold his hand. He knew if the child was his marriage and career were over. Meanwhile, the girl sat relaxed, knowing the truth was out. She was calm, as she would now have proof of paternity and the right to child support, easing her difficult life. In the bright studio lights, the room fell silent as Maury spoke. "In the case of 10-month-old Amber Marie," he paused dramatically, "Reverend Pritchard, you are the father." The former minister jumped up and ran backstage, with his wife following, screaming for a divorce. On stage, the mother of his child performed a victory dance that was so seductive it embarrassed everyone. The audience loved it, and even I got caught up until Ellie poked me and reminded me I had someone who could dance better. Sally then took a seat on stage and talked with Maury. She shared that she and Billy had been together for 7 years, had 5 children, and lived in a trailer. She loved him despite his lack of a job. The audience cheered her for her loyalty. She explained how rumors of Billy's cheating had reached her, and that he might have gotten another woman in the trailer park pregnant. The audience booed in response. The monitor showed Billy's interview. He claimed he had always been loyal and was upset Sally doubted him. He said Sally and the kids were his life, and if she made him take a lie detector test, he'd consider ending their marriage. The audience booed, but Sally looked unsure. She loved Billy and wanted him back, but wanted to make it clear she wasn't stupid. Ellie muttered that Billy deserved what he was getting if he got that woman pregnant, then went backstage to comfort Sally. Marilyn then came on stage to loud boos. She claimed Billy entertained multiple women in the trailer park. She wasn't in love with him, but wanted him to get a job and pay child support. She apologized to Sally, but insisted Billy told her they were getting divorced. Marilyn was 2,000% sure Billy was her child's father. I was confused because outside of trailer parks, you can only be 100% sure. Marilyn's statement made Sally cry, and Maury comforted her. To my surprise, Ellie ran on stage, hugged her sister, and tried to console her. "That cheating prick is no good," Ellie said. I knew we'd have to record the episode when it aired because it was Ellie's dream to be on Maury's show. We'd probably watch it every day for the rest of our lives. Finally, they brought Billy out. I felt sorry for him as he walked down the ramp into a hostile crowd. Not a single friendly face greeted him, while Marilyn received more support despite her guilt. Maury questioned Billy, who denied everything, cheating on Sally, being jobless, and knowing Marilyn personally. He called Marilyn a strumpet, prompting her to attack him. Sally rushed to defend Billy, and Ellie supported Sally. Security had to separate everyone. The show turned chaotic, more like Jerry Springer than Maury. Maury then announced the DNA test results for 3-month-old Stephen. "Billy, you're not the father!" Marilyn cried and ran off the stage, while Billy danced in relief. But Maury wasn't done. He revealed lie detector results, showing Billy had lied about not having an affair with Marilyn, having done it over 10 times. Billy argued the test was wrong, but Sally punched him in the face. Ellie pulled her back. Maury continued, revealing Billy had slept with over 5 other women more than 50 times. Sally cried uncontrollably, supported by Ellie. Billy, head in his hands, begged Maury to stop, but the audience demanded more. Maury kept reading, each revelation further devastating Billy and Sally. I felt sorry for Billy and Sally, but I couldn't help laughing at the absurdity. Suddenly, Sally jumped up, yelling at Billy with such fury that Maury stepped aside. "You goddamn prick," she screamed. "Who were those strumpets worth more to you than your children? I'm done with you." "Yeah, you sick prick," Ellie shouted. "You don't need to talk, Allie," Billy said, and I knew what he was going to say next. "Since we both know you were one of those strumpets." The room fell silent. Ellie screamed no and looked at me, but her eyes told me it was true. "If you don't believe me, ask your man on a lie detector," Billy said. "He asked me if I've slept with anyone in your family." Sally turned to Ellie and started slapping her. Ellie, looking for me, didn't defend herself. I quietly left the studio, got a cab, and returned to the hotel. Maury's team canceled the next segment to focus on the drama. They kept calling me, wanting to film the wreckage of my marriage, but I ignored them. I checked out of the hotel and changed my flight, leaving 90 minutes later. Back at the studio, Maury's producers convinced Ellie, Sally, and Billy to return on stage. The audience was riveted. Sally told Ellie and Billy she never wanted to see them again. Billy apologized, claiming he was dependent and needed help. A counselor offered him therapy, and they convinced Ellie to give him another chance for the children's sake. Sally eventually forgave Ellie, who was miserable. I learned all this a week later, and frankly, I didn't care. As soon as I got home, I contacted a lawyer and started divorce proceedings. It was tough and emotional, but I managed to get it done. Thankfully, we live in a no-fault state, so I didn't need to prove anything. Still, I had a recording of the show that could serve as evidence of her infidelity and my public humiliation. To expedite the process, I agreed to a 50-50th split of our assets. The only exception was that she kept the house and gave up any claims to my future earnings or retirement funds. Everything seemed set to go smoothly. I had the lawyer arrange for her to be served divorce papers at the airport. Curiously, I watched from a distance as she received the papers. To my surprise, she tore them up and started attacking the server, leading to security being called. My lawyer and I quickly left and went back to his office. "That woman is out of control," he said. "I might need to get you a restraining order." "Don't worry about it," I replied. "I've moved into a hotel and I'm searching for a new place in a different suburb." "But you still work at the same place and drive that bright white Mustang. You'll be easy to find," he warned. I took a couple of weeks off, but kept the car. I used the time to find a new house, which, though not as nice as the old one, was necessary since I had too many memories of Ellie there. When I returned to work, Ellie was waiting for me in the parking lot. "Ted, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. You have to come home. I can't live without you," she pleaded. I walked past her. "Ted, at least talk to me. I promise it won't happen again. I love you. I don't care about Billy," she cried. "He means nothing to me." I couldn't take it anymore and turned on her. "Don't lie. Billy must mean a lot to you if you left me for him. All the love, our marriage, our life, our future, you gave it all up for him. So maybe you should go back to him and make the most of it. Don't come back here. If you have anything to say, do it through my lawyer." "Ted, Sally forgave Billy. Remember when you and she talked in our hotel room and I pretended to be asleep? She said she and Billy didn't love each other as much as we do. If she can forgive him after he cheated many times, why can't you forgive me? I promise this will never happen again. I'll beg if I have to. Don't throw away 5 years of happiness." "Okay, Ellie," I said, "get on your knees." She did, pleading for me to take her back. "No," I said, and went into the building. I stayed late at work. When I left, I noticed an old pickup next to my Mustang. Sally was sitting in it. "Ted, I know she hurt you," she began. "No one knows that pain more than me. Billy's done it multiple times. This time is the last I'll take him back. My kids are better off without a cheating father. But I still forgave him because I know in his way, he loves me. Love is rare and valuable, even imperfect love. People make mistakes. When you truly love someone, you must overlook those flaws. Less than a month ago, you seemed willing to do anything for my sister. Have you let it go so quickly? What about the time you both invested? Has it all been wasted? Remember your vows, for better or worse, until death do us part." 3 things to consider. First, Ellie loves you deeply and is in a lot of pain. She knows she messed up and wants to fix it. You are her world. Second, it wasn't a real affair. This is Billy, not someone she loves. It was just a distraction while you weren't around. I forgave both of them. You only need to forgive Ellie. Lastly, talk to her. She knows she hurt you and it's liquidating her. She thinks the world of you. It might help you too because you don't look happy either. She hugged me, got back in her truck, and drove off. That night, I reflected on my life with Ellie, remembering how happy we were until I found out about her affair. I realized I still didn't know why she did it. If I wanted to save our marriage, those answers mattered. The next morning, I called Sally, but Billy answered, so I hung up. Moments later, Ellie called. "Did you call to talk to me?" she asked excitedly. "Well," I started. "Yes," she interrupted. "Yes to what?" I asked. "Whatever it takes to get us back together," she said. "I know I screwed up and I'll never do it again. I'll do anything for another chance." "I wanted to talk to Sally," I said. "Oh," she replied, disappointed. "Ted, have I told you I'm sorry and that I miss you so much it hurts? I feel empty inside," she said quietly. "I'm sure Billy will fill that void," I said coldly. "I didn't call to talk to you. Why aren't you at your house? Can I speak to Sally?" "Sally's at school talking to a teacher. And when you say my home, you mean our home. But it's not home without you. Why do you need to talk to my sister?" "Maybe I don't anymore, Ellie. I wanted to understand why you were with Billy, or if there were others. I also wanted to ask how Sally forgives him repeatedly because I considered talking to you again. But if you were really sorry, you wouldn't be with Billy now, would you? There's no hope for us, Ellie. Just sign the papers and let's move on." There was a hard click, followed by Ellie screaming and crying, so I hung up. An hour later, Sally called, clearly angry. "Ted, why did you call her just to torment her?" she asked. "I know she hurt you, but I thought you were the mature one. She's even worse now. I had to give her something to help her sleep." "Sally, I didn't call her. I called to talk to you." Billy answered, so I hung up. Ellie called me back and I told her I wanted to talk to you. I wasn't ready to talk to her, but I was considering giving us a chance, I said calmly. "What time do you pick up the kids from school?" I asked. 3:30, she replied. "Why?" "I want to discuss this. Put on a nice dress and let's go to lunch. You're still my sister-in-law for now, right?" I asked. "I don't have a nice dress," she replied sadly. "Okay, let's meet at the mall," I said. "North entrance, 40 minutes. And do your makeup like for Maury's show?" When Sally arrived at the mall, she looked stunning. Her lips were just a touch darker than their natural pink. Her eyes were lined, but very subtly. Even the foundation she wore was so light you could see the freckles she shared with her sister. Her long blonde hair was swept back elegantly. I almost wished I'd fallen for her instead of Ellie, but her outfit didn't match her makeup and hair. "Why do you want me to put on makeup like a hooker just for lunch at the mall?" she asked. "We're not having lunch at the mall," I replied. "We're just meeting here." I took her hand and led her into a women's dress store. I had her try on 3 or 4 dresses. The third one, a floral gray dress with a black pattern, was the one I had hoped for. It fit her figure and hid the changes from having 5 children. "Ted, I thought we were supposed to talk about my sister, not play dress-up," Sally said. "We'll take it all," I told the clerk, handing over my card. "And she'll wear it. We'll talk about you and my sister," I said to Sally. "But I want us to have lunch at a nice restaurant and relax. There are some things I need to ask you." The place I chose was right around the corner from the mall. It was a great steakhouse and Ellie's favorite. I made our reservations and placed our order. Sally was looking around, and people were looking at her. I don't think she realized how beautiful she was. She deserved this day, and I was happy to give her a break from her daily struggles. "Sally, you've been talking to both of them for the last 3 weeks. I know it hasn't been easy for you. How did you find the strength to not only forgive them both, but to move on?" I asked. "I love your sister. I've loved her since the first day I met her. Sometimes I feel like my heart beats just for her, but at the same time, I'm furious with her. I can't bring myself to talk to her. Every time I do, I get so angry I want to explode. One minute I want to hug her, and the next I want to strangle her. I know you love Billy, but I can never be in the same room with him again without wanting to eliminate him. Even if Ellie and I somehow save our marriage, things have to change. No more holidays or barbecues together. You and the kids are always welcome, but Billy can't set foot in my house again, and I won't come to yours unless you kick him out. That goes without saying. But I just can't find the strength you have. No matter how much I love her, I can't forgive that. I was hoping you found out from them how it all started, when, and with how many people she cheated on me, and why. That would be good to know. And then, like I said, I really want to know. How do you manage to ignore what that idiot does and keep living?" Sally took another bite of steak and looked down at her plate. She pretended not to notice the tears on my face, and I pretended not to notice hers. "Ted, I'm not as strong as you think," she said. "It hurts every time he does that. When we went on the show, I already knew I was going to take him back. I was ready to be mad if he got that girl pregnant, but I was still going to take him back. I was ready for him to fool around with a few different women. But I swear, I had no idea Ellie was one of them. That hurt a lot. I was even more pissed at Billy and really pissed at Ellie. But as for Billy, I still wanted him back." She put down her knife and fork and leaned towards me. "Ted, my mom died when Ellie and I were 7 and 9. Our dad cheated on her for as long as I can remember. At 9, it seemed natural to ask my mom before she died, 'Mom, where's Dad?' She'd just look sad and say he was with another woman and other kids. Ellie and I pretty much raised ourselves. We learned what to do and what not to do from our own experiences. I guess I'm like my mom in some ways. I don't like how Billy is, but I hope he'll change or mature as he gets older. He's not abusive. He's never punched me or the kids, even in anger, but he just can't keep it in his pants. Sometimes I wish my kids had a dad who could work and bring home money, or that we had a nice house. But when I look at my kids, I see his smile in each of them. He's a part of them, so I can't just throw him away. I promised to love him for better or worse, so I have to take the bad with the good. As for Ellie, I still want to strike her a couple of times a day. I ask myself how she could do this to me. I would never do that to her. Even when I was messing around with you to see if you'd go for it, I knew you wouldn't. You love Ellie too much. Ted, whether you realize it or not, that's why this is so hard for you. It's because you love her so much. If you didn't, we'd be talking about divorce and how to make sure she didn't get a dime. This is still raw and fresh, and you're in a lot of pain. Your anger is taking precedence over love. It will take time for things to balance out, and then we'll see how it resolves. If anger takes over, you probably won't take her back, and that could destroy my sister. But if love wins, it will be even harder because you'll want her back, and your pride is already hurt. It won't be easy, but I believe those people I saw in that hotel room 3 weeks ago won't let what they had die. I reached across the table, took Sally's hand, and kissed it. We left the restaurant, and I couldn't help but sneak a look at Sally's long legs stretched out in the front seat of my Mustang. I dropped her off near her car in time for her to pick up her kids. I felt bad about what I was doing to Sally, but I had to know. Later, I found out she made quite a scene at her kids' school. and when she went back to the trailer park. As soon as she walked in, Allie jumped up and asked where she had been. Billy couldn't take his eyes off her and started getting angry too. "Relax, both of you," Sally said. "I went to lunch with my brother-in-law." "Where did you get those clothes?" Billy asked. "Ted bought me an outfit so we could go to a nice restaurant," Sally replied. "It was great. I had the best time of my life." "Ted should have taken you to a cheaper place and brought enough food for everyone," snapped Billy. "What kind of friend is he? Why would he want to be your friend?" Sally retorted. "Ted's been good to us since he started dating my sister. He's always given us money, taken us places. I love you, Billy, but how have you repaid him? You ruined the one thing he valued most, his marriage. You probably think that since our marriage didn't mean much to you, Ellie didn't matter to him either. Now my husband is in a lot of pain. He's trying to stay strong, but he's not the same and probably never will be. Even if he takes my sister back, things will never be the same here. So if I were you, I wouldn't plan on showing up at the house to swim or watch soccer on Sundays. He's done with you." "Jesus, woman, you act like I've done something crazy," Billy said. "All I did was entertain Allie. Everybody does things with Allie, even Ted, so why shouldn't I? Besides, there's nothing special about her worth getting upset over. A man has to try different flavors sometimes. I know I've had too much, and I told you I intend to cut back, but he's going too far. Ted isn't just trying. He genuinely loves Ellie and doesn't want to share her with anyone. He really, or maybe he did, see something special in her. That's what I wanted for my little sister, something neither I nor my mom had, a man who puts her first. It's not just your fault. I'm mad at Ellie too, because as much as I love you, the three of you together wouldn't be half as good as Ted. My sister probably just messed up her life because she couldn't keep her legs closed." "What are you talking about, Sally?" Ellie shrieked. "Ellie, I know you love Ted, but honey, he's not like us. I know you think he's going to stomp around and drag you through the mud for a couple of weeks, but it's been almost a month. It's time to realize you may not get him back. He really loved you, and when you got together, he expected you to be faithful. Was the sex with him bad?" Sally asked. "He was wonderful," replied Ellie. "I miss him so much I can't stand it. You have to help me, Sally. He won't even talk to me." "If things were so good, why were you messing around with Billy?" Sally asked. "Because she's a promiscuous," snapped Billy. "She just wanted to deny me the chance to watch soccer on that big TV. She's so easy. Any guy, fat or thin, short or tall, can get her. The main thing is over 18. And if Ted is so smart, why doesn't he know he married a strumpet? Maybe someone should tell him. If she loves him so much, why won't she stop? I'll tell him what's been going on. It's not Christian to let a man be so clueless. Does Ellie know you messed with the preacher at your wedding or with his boss? If you tell him any of that, I'll eliminate you in your sleep," Billy snarled. "I'm not going to let you ruin my sister's life any more than you already have. And Ellie, get out of that trailer. Drive the car your man bought you to the nice house he bought and wait for him to take you back. I'll try to talk to him for you, but that's all I can do." "I bet she's having fun with him, Ellie," Billy snapped back. "That's why he bought her those clothes. I bet they've been messing around since you met him. Now that he knows about us, he's trading your skinny self for a real woman. That's why he doesn't want to talk to you, his wife, or me, his brother-in-law and friend. He only wants to talk to Sally." "Sally. Does he want you or my kids too? Are those kids even mine? It's funny that you dragged me on Maury's show and aired our dirty laundry just to find out you're as big a phony as I am, and a strumpet like your sister. And here I thought I was marrying a good man. Maybe I'll call Ted and see what I can get if I trade you for this pillow." I heard Sally walk quickly across the room, her new heels clacking on the trailer floor. "Billy, I love you, but you're an idiot. I never cheated on you, not even with Ted. And Ted loved Ellie so much he practically cried for her as much as she cried for him. You know he wanted to take me out to dinner to find out. Ellie, you already know your husband has a lot of pride. He can't just take you back, even though he wants to. He needs to understand why you did what you did. You both made serious promises, and you broke one of the most serious ones. He doesn't see entertainment the way you and Billy do. To him, it's a bond between two people who love each other. If one does it with someone else, it breaks that bond. The funny thing is, it shows how wrong opinions can be. I love you more than anyone, Ellie, including this idiot. And I know you thought you were deprived. That's why you messed around to prove something. But I was always jealous of you because I thought you had brainstorms. Or you just heard what your son-in-law thinks of you and me. And Ted, the man who made you almost throw away your marriage, thinks of you as a strumpet anyone can take. And I, his wife, am just an old hag who takes care of his children. He'd trade me for you if Ted gave him money or a TV. Ellie, Ted is in a lot of pain because of you. Right now, he's standing on a slippery fence. It won't take much for him to fall. Either way, you have to find him. Never stop calling and begging him to take you back. You know Ted would do anything for you. Have him take you as far away from here as possible. Ellie, Sally said slowly, I want you to understand something. You know me. Even after what you did and how you hurt Billy, you know I would never sleep with your man. I'm not that kind of woman. And deep down, ask yourself, how much does Ted love you? Do you really think he'd try to sleep with anyone but you? It's so unlikely. Nothing happened with Ted today. We mostly talked about what it would take for him to take you back. But if today is any indication of your life, I have to admit, I want it. You know how great today was. We went to the mall. He watched while I tried on clothes until we found the dress he liked. Then he bought the dress and shoes. It wasn't just that he bought me clothes. It was that he was interested in seeing me at my best and happy. And when people looked at me, I smiled because I knew they thought I had a man who treated me like I was special. You may take these things for granted, but most women don't. You don't know how lucky you are. You risked it all to be with Billy and some dumb trailer park guys who probably don't even remember your name. Please tell me you're not that stupid. Don't become one of those desperate old ladies in the trailer park trying to entertain every jock that walks by. Don't end up with a bunch of kids who don't know their fathers. Don't end up alone, daydreaming about something you once had but never kept. Honey, you don't know what you have until it's gone. You're on the verge of losing your only chance at a wonderful life. The only thing I can be proud of is that all my kids have the same daddy. And no matter how bad Billy is, I know he loves me in his own way. He won't leave me. If you lose Ted, what will your life be like? I'm tired of preaching, honey, but I'll tell you one thing. If you and Ted were to break up for good, I'd go after him myself. Then I heard Billy's loud laugh. She can't go after Ted, he said. She's just another trailer park strumpet. I entertain her every morning as soon as you leave to take the kids to school. Today, while you were gone, she was with me, Tom, and that arrogant mailman. She'll never stop. The funny thing is, I really believe she loves Ted, but she has an itch that takes more than one guy to fix, so she can be faithful to Ted when he's around. But when he's not, it's different. And Ted is one of those guys who has to have a job and a bunch of stuff, so he'll always be working until he can't work anymore. If she wasn't on the strongest birth control, there's no telling how many kids she'd have by now. Mine, Ted's, and who knows who else's. So if you love her as much as you say you do, the best thing is to get on board and help her cover it up. That way, Ted can keep working for all of us. Then I heard Billy's laughter again, and the sound of the trailer door opening and closing. Ellie, tell me that idiot isn't telling the truth, Sally said. You didn't mess around with him this morning, did you? Ellie was silent, then started crying again. I didn't think anyone would find out, she said. Ted hasn't touched me or approached me since the show. I couldn't help it. Please don't tell him. I sat down and sank deeper into the thick, soft leather seat of my Mustang. Tears began to flow freely down my cheeks. I turned off the small receiver and disconnected it from the auxiliary input of my Mustang. By now, you've probably guessed that the whole lunch date with Sally was a setup. Tiny bugs had been sewn into the lining of the dress, and even the shoes I bought for Sally today. I hoped she'd do what I'd planned. Go home and talk to Ellie about what we did today. I hoped Ellie would give me some clue about how she felt about me and what she had done. I hoped to make her a little jealous by buying clothes for her sister. The dress bugs and lunch cost a lot less than hiring a private investigator. But my grand plan backfired, causing me far more pain than even Maury's show. I looked over at the woman sitting on the other bar stool to see her reaction. She was looking at me with her mouth open. I put the 5 on the bar stool and started to get up. The bowling alley should be open by now. Wait, you can't just leave. What did you do next? What are you doing now? You have to tell me how it ended, she pleaded. I sighed and sat back down. Well, Lisa, she added quickly. Lisa, every story doesn't have an ending. It's not a novel from the thrift store or a free story about it on the internet. Sometimes you just have to keep moving until the pain goes away. But I'll tell you what I did. I drove straight to the trailer park. It wasn't more than a mile away because those little bugs don't transmit any farther than that. I swung the trailer door open, and as soon as Billy stood up, I held out my hand like I wanted to shake his. When he reached out, I punched him hard in the jaw. He went down. As he lay there, I kicked him hard in the balls, and then again for good measure. Sally and Ellie were too shocked to do anything about it. I turned around and pulled a pipe out of my pocket. I walked over to the sink in the trailer and plugged the receiver into the cheap boombox they were using as a stereo. The sound of their own voices made them sit up and listen. The only distraction was the moans of Billy, who was still squirming on the floor with a bloodstain growing in his lap. "Sally, you're too good for this hole and these people. I know you won't want to, but I'm offering you a chance right now. You and your kids will come with me. We will never look back," I said. Sally shook her head silently. Ellie started to scream as I turned to leave. "What about us, Ted? I love you. I'll leave with you. I'll change. Please don't leave me. Don't divorce me. We can work this out. We have to. I won't let any other woman near you, including my sister." "Ellie," I said sadly, "the worst part is that I still love you even after everything I heard on that tape. But I also hate you for how you treated me." Sally said it best. "You don't know what you have until it's gone." But she said it to the wrong person. You knew what you had. You had a man who loved you, was faithful to you, and would do anything to make you happy. I say had because I left and I'm never coming back. Sally talked to me. I didn't know what I had until it was gone because I thought I had a wife who loved me and only me. I thought I had a love that would last my whole life. But that wasn't what I had, was it? And I didn't know that until even a bit of that love was gone, burned away in an instant by what I heard on that tape. I won't tell you what I had, what you are, because I'm too damn sweet to even say it. But you're gone forever. I mean it. Even if I'm angry and hurt now and then realize I still love you, it won't matter because I'll never be able to trust you. And without trust, we can't have a marriage. But don't worry about the divorce. I called my lawyer on the way here and asked him to cancel the divorce. I heard them both breathe a sigh of relief, thinking I had decided not to divorce her. Then I smiled as coldly as I could and spoke again. "You don't deserve a divorce. I'm going to do it trailer park style. Just leave and start over somewhere else. Sooner or later, I'll meet another woman and fall in love again. But I won't marry her. You made me lose faith in women. Besides, it's better this way. In a divorce, you'd have rights, a settlement, alimony, property division. If I just walk away, you don't get a damn thing. You don't even get the house because it's in my name. All you'll get is the sight of me walking away from your stupid back. That's it." And I just walked out of the trailer, got in my Mustang, and drove off. Sally immediately started trying to call me. She said she thought Allie was as dependent to it as Billy, and maybe they could put her in treatment. I told her not to worry because I'm not interested in a wife who needs to be taught how not to have fun with me, or one that needs to be taught how to keep her legs closed. Over the next few days, Ellie showed up at my work and even found my house. It got to the point where I told my lawyer to write a restraining order. Ellie ignored him. In one awkward moment, she grabbed my leg. As the police officers tried to pull her away from me, I realized that the only way to truly separate myself from her was to move out of state. So I quit my job and began the process of establishing a new life before leaving town. There were a few things I needed to do. I know I should have been above such petty things, but I couldn't help myself. The next morning, I visited the local post office with my attorney. I played the tape for the postmaster, and he turned pale when we mentioned the alienation of affection suit and a possible post office department lawsuit. We knew we couldn't sue the post office because it is a branch of the federal government, but apparently, small-town postmasters don't see it that way. He called the postal operator, Ed, and immediately fired him. He also offered me a 5-figure sum to avoid taking the matter to court. He said he realized it wasn't much, but it would help me feather my nest, so I accepted. As I left the post office, I found Ed crying by his locker. I gave him a light pat on the shoulder while he was squirming on the floor. I picked up his wallet and went over to his apartment to deliver the tape to his grumpy wife. She asked for a copy, so I'm sure divorce was in Ed's future. That left only Tom for my petty revenge. Tom prided himself on having the best trailer in the park. He was one of the few in the park who owned his own trailer, and it actually had wheels. When I pulled into the park without a lawyer, Tom was sitting in front of the trailer where Marilyn and her parents lived. I drove by and went up the hill to Tom's trailer. Once there, I pulled a trailer roller out of the trunk and attached it to Tom's hitch. Most trailers roll fine, but the trailer hitch and the posts and tiny wheels attached to it make them awkward to move unless they are towed. I quickly attached the roller and went around Tom's trailer, removing any bricks, wedges, or pieces of wood that might interfere with the easy movement of the trailer. What happened next was simple, just pushing the trailer to get it to start rolling down the slope, and gravity helped a lot. Tom's trailer was heading toward the lake. Once it started moving, it would be hard to stop it, especially since Tom would have to climb the hill and then run down the other side to keep his house out of the lake. When the trailer started rolling down the hill, everyone didn't notice it until a minute or two later, and when they did, they thought it was the funniest thing ever. I got the impression that not many of them liked Tom. After the trailer plunged into the lake, everyone gathered around to watch it sink. Tom came running in out of breath from running. He was swearing and ready to be tied up. "Relax, Tom," someone said. "Your insurance will take care of it." Tom didn't have any insurance. Someone else fired up the grill and they all grilled hot dogs and watched Tom's trailer sink. I guess some people will do anything for entertainment. I pulled Tom away from the scene, and he came with me. He probably didn't know that I knew about him having fun with Ellie. "That's for Ellie," I said, and stroked Tom's belly, causing him to fall to the floor. After I let out my emotions, there was nothing else left in this town for me, so I set off in search of greener pastures. Before I left town, I liquidated all my assets, including quickly selling both houses and everything else we had accumulated during our marriage. Anything I couldn't sell, I burned. I know that to all you legal experts out there, what I did was damn near illegal, but I didn't care, and I still don't. I didn't leave Ellie a damn dime. I even burned all her clothes. I left Sally a few $1,000s for emergencies with her or her kids and an anonymous email address where she could contact me from time to time. But I left town and never looked back. I don't stay in one place long enough for her to track me down. Thanks to selling houses and my assets, I have a fair amount of wealth. When I move to a city or town, I easily find a job as an engineer. If not, I move. I rolled my retirement account into a self-directed IRA so I can still pay into it. Someday I'll settle down and find someone, but probably not until my heart stops hurting for Ellie. Every now and then, I hear from Sally, and at the mention of Allie, my heart starts to ache again. Right now, Billy is completely devoted to Sally. He has no choice. He suffers from erectile dysfunction. Thanks to my lucky kicks, he still doesn't have a job. Allie, according to Sally, still loves me and wants me back. She came on Maury's show again, claiming she was pregnant and needed to find the father of her child. She wasn't actually pregnant. She just wanted the show to use its resources to try and track me down. She doesn't want money or anything like that. She supposedly just wants me back. I fly far under the radar because these TV shows have a lot of resources, including a private investigator, and I don't want them to find me and give her any information about my whereabouts. Sometimes I stay with a woman for a few nights or more, but I still haven't found anyone to take Ellie's place in my heart. I'll probably love that skinny trailer park horror until the day I die. But I can't live with her or be around her, so for now, it's just me and my Mustang, watching the U.S. one city at a time. Even now, a year later, every time I see some skinny redheaded girl, a tear rolls down my cheek, and I realize I still haven't forgotten her. I'm sure she's already made her way through the trailer park in half the town. I know this isn't the ending you wanted or expected. In fact, it's not really an ending at all. If you want a better ending, I'll let you write it. Lisa threw her head back and finished her beer. She was a pretty woman with long dark hair and crystal clear blue eyes. "You're definitely not what I expected," she said. "But you'll do." She reached into her purse and pulled out her cell phone, weapon, and badge license. As she dialed a number on her cell phone, I looked at the badge. She wasn't a cop. She was a licensed private investigator. "Yes, this is Lisa," she said into the phone. "That was another dead end. There isn't one in this town either. There was a guy here who drove a Mustang, but it's the wrong color and the wrong year, and the guy's too old to be one. I'll tell you something else, Marty. I'm tired of this. I don't want to spend the rest of my life tracking down other people's spouses. I think it's time for me to find my own. So I'm leaving. Tell the redhead and the people on the show that I don't think this guy is ever going to show up. She's wasting Maury's money and her life looking for him." Lisa stepped away from the bar, leaving her weapon, badge, and phone in place. "So let's take a look at this Mustang," she said. I nodded and smiled at her as we headed for the door. 6 weeks later, I realized I was in trouble. Since Lisa and I had left the bar, I hadn't thought of Ellie once. I told Lisa about it one morning when she got out of the shower and headed toward me. She just smiled and said, "Maybe the reason you don't have the ending to the Ellie story is because you missed it. The end of the Ted and Ellie story came when you left the Maury show. Your marriage was over and everything else was just an epilogue. You weren't looking for the end of Ted and Ellie for a long time. You were looking for the beginning of Ted and Lisa's story. This is the story of you and me and our family. and it will last for the rest of our lives.